Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Siddhika, and today I have with me Dr. Janaki, and we are going to be discussing a little heavy topic that is domestic violence. First of all, I want to say that there is a trigger warning, so make sure that you are in a kind of mindset where you are ready to hear us talking about domestic violence. And secondly, we are going to be giving some references to the movie Thappad. So if you have not watched the movie, then make sure you know that there are going to be some amount of spoilers ahead, not the entire plot, but just a little. Hi, Dr. Janaki.
Hi, Siddhika. Hi.
So, Dr. Janaki, tell me, what do we understand by domestic violence?
Yeah, so domestic violence is also known as intimate partner violence. So, what we are discussing here is violence between romantic partners or very close relationships like husband and wife, or in living in relationships, or even boyfriend and girlfriend. So, this
Hmm.
is the kind of violence that we call as domestic violence usually. And
Hmm.
it also encompasses different types of violence. So, we only tend to focus on physical violence. So physical violence is quite evident. Then we also have sexual violence, and we also have emotional abuse as part of this, and we have controlling behaviors in the sense restricting finances, or restricting the person from talking to their loved ones, even restricting from meeting up with friends and family. So that would be part of controlling behaviors. So this is the whole term of domestic violence. So, Dr. Siddhika, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people with the history of domestic violence, and it's mostly women that we come across who suffer from domestic violence. Why do you think it is more prone in women, and what are the factors which lead to domestic violence?
Yes, of course, I don't deal primarily with the people who come for domestic violence. But in the course of seeing patients, we do come across a lot of, when we ask about their history of their marital status and their relationship status, or how their relationship is going on, we do come across this history. So, according to a few studies, it's been shown that 60% of people have shown there's been like a lifetime prevalence of 60% among people in a relationship who've had history of domestic violence, and definitely the numbers are much more in women. There have been criteria like individual factors which show about what is the reason domestic violence is so common. One of the things that they have found is a lower socioeconomic background, a lower educational status. They've also found that when a woman has more years of education as compared to a man, so ideally, of course, it shouldn't be, but that this has been the one of the reasons why there's been increased domestic violence. Another criteria is if a woman has had history of sexual abuse or any kind of abuse in the past, it also makes it more common that she's likely to accept the violence and not fight against it. And lastly, what kind of relationship a person's parents have been in, that also influences whether they see violence in their relationship or not.
Mm.
So for males, if there is say history of use of alcohol or
Mm.
drugs, that makes it more likely that they are going to indulge in domestic violence.
Mm.
We have relationship factors in terms of how is the relationship between the two partners.
Mm.
So if they have inner frustrations in their relationship, if they're not having a if they are not having a sense of satisfaction, contentment in their relationship, it can lead to violence.
Mm.
If they don't have that sense of compatibility,
Mm.
that can also lead to violence.
Mm.
So a relationship is always work done to maintain the relationship. So
Yeah.
it's not, you don't get things easily out of the relationship. So if you don't have a relationship where you're able to communicate with your partner, understand your partner,
Mm.
then it may lead to this kind of violent communication, as we call
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
The third, societal and cultural factors, as we know, we are in a patriarchal society. So it does happen that, males have a sense of entitlement in the relationship. And it becomes okay for the man to express his frustrations or his anger in the form of violence. So even the man's family or the partner herself may accept this, saying something like, he generally provides for me, but when he's angry or when he's under the influence of alcohol, then he becomes violent. So then one instance of such violence when it starts, then it becomes a kind of cycle, and then it progresses to actually being very harmful.
Right. Okay, so yeah, so you talked about the cycle of the abuse. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So there are there are some phases that we see in any abusive relationship, and this happens in all types of abuse, but more so in domestic violence. You can see it quite clearly that there is a phase where there is a tension building phase, where the partners are having more fights than usual. And if it's a patriarchal society and a male dominated society, so you see that there are some signs that the partner is getting more and more tense, the husband is getting more and more tense, in that teeth clenching and showing the fist, and using abusive language. This starts the cycle of the tension phase, and then it goes to the incident phase. Now the incident is when the harm occurs. So of course all of this is already harm. There is also fear associated with this teeth clenching and fist showing. Already the fear has started in the woman's mind, but then the actual extreme incident happens where the husband or the partner just hits out, lashes out on the female, and that is the incident phase. And after that what happens is there is a honeymoon phase, or there is a reconciliation phase, where the husband or the partner will say, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Or sometimes they don't even say sorry, they say, oh no, because you did this, you behaved in this manner, that's why I did it. If you change yourself, I'll change myself. Things like that happen, and then there is a phase of calm where things seem to be like normal again. Okay, and nothing is addressed, these things are not addressed, but things go on and on. Now what happens is, every time this happens, the cycle becomes shorter in duration. So the incidents become more and more frequent, and the intensity of the abuse becomes more and more. So once there is an incident of abuse, it is difficult that it will stop with that. It usually goes on and on, unless it is addressed, unless it is made sure that the other person, the person who's the perpetrator, realizes that there is a mistake there is a problem there, and he needs to correct it. And there is also a need for the woman to be aware of the fact that this is wrong, and she needs to take steps for her safety, and also address the issue with the person.
Yeah, many times it does happen that the woman blames herself, and basically that if I had done this on time, if I had made this properly, like even something like if I had not forgotten to put salt in the food, then this would not have happened, or he would not get angry. So initially, it may start off with how we call it as a woman, walking on eggshells, and trying to steer clear of her partner from getting violent.
Right.
This becomes a kind of normal for the woman, and maybe even the children, that they know to tiptoe around the father, and they know that they should not make him angry, so that he doesn't retaliate very badly. So this really affects the kind of the environment that the kids grow up in, and even the relationship the entire family has with each other.
Yes. So here is where, I mean, I think we can talk a little bit about that, the movie, Thappad. Why we are bringing that into focus is that, that there was a single incident of abuse which happened. I mean, there are different protagonists in the movie, but there is one lady who goes through one single incident of abuse, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
discussion regarding whether this was uh, whether the reactions that were they measured or not. But really, if you
Hmm.
look at the cycle of abuse, that's where it all starts.
Yeah.
One single incident of abuse, then
Hmm.
you go back, and then you find out that there are other things in the relationship which are not so not really working well. What was your
Hmm.
opinion on it, Dr. Siddhika?
Yeah, correct. In this story, basically, when Tapsi's husband hits her,
Mm,
everyone wants her. Everyone justifies his actions,
mm,
basically by saying he was drinking. He had a bad day at work.
mm,
Something that was promised to him was not given to him.
mm,
She was pulling him away from an altercation that he was having with his boss.
mm,
So in the entire situation, it was just basically like there were so many factors which were influencing him to be violent, and
mm,
so she should forgive him for what he did.
mm,
So basically, that's where I felt that we tend to justify our actions based on what the circumstance was.
yeah.
So should we? But the thing is, the movie ends with that one episode, but
Mm,
we do see that in society doesn't remain that one episode.
mm,
And if a partner gets used to, or once he does it, he may feel guilty, and
mm,
the second time when he does it, the lesser guilt that he actually feels about getting violent.
mm,
So the guilt goes on decreasing as the
mm,
number of episodes increase,
yeah.
and also it becomes more or less of a habit.
Mm,
So we don't have a sense of control about what was it. Was I
mm,
not able to manage why I was frustrated? Was I not able to manage my anger?
mm,
Um, what does it say about the relationship with my wife that I
mm,
have if I'm okay with her, I'm nice to her at other times, but
mm,
when I am emotionally vulnerable, I lash out like this.
mm,
So it here, I think he really needs to contemplate about what triggered him
mm,
to lash out like that, so that he can modify his behavior. There are going to be instances again and again where
mm,
he's going to be angry, where things are not going to work in his favor. So
mm.
how is he going to modify his behavior for circumstances similar circumstances will occur in future?
Yeah. Right. So that is where, the role of a psychiatrist and a psychologist or a counselor
Hmm.
can come in. Like if the
Yeah.
perpetrator or the person who's, hitting out, lashing out,
Hmm.
realizes that, yeah,
Hmm.
look, this is not normal behavior. First of all,
Hmm.
that's the catch. They have to accept that it's not normal behavior, and they have to
Yeah.
accept that they need to address it. It's a weakness in themselves, and the
Hmm.
lady should also be able to see it as a weakness in the man, not in herself. And that's where this is where society comes in. People have to know that there's a weakness in the perpetrator and not in the victim, and hence then after that the perpetrator, the person will come for counseling, and then we can look at anger management strategies. So in anger management strategies, of course, there are some very simple strategies to decrease
Hmm.
the reaction time in general. What is anger? Like, it is irritability which has gone extreme, and you have shown a reaction which you cannot take back, even though you may have
Hmm.
some remorse over it, right, afterwards. So that is something that's an unwanted reaction. So what do you need to do there? You need to wait and see whether that reaction is going to bring the right consequences or not. So for that, you need to
Hmm.
increase the reaction time, and for that there are measures like, simple measures like use your logic at that moment, do an ABC analysis, antecedent behavior consequence analysis. That is at the thought level. At a behavior level, there are such simple exercises like, just clench your fist, hold, count to 10, breathe at that point.
Hmm.
All of this, like, the man needs to have respect for the woman and say that, yeah, I made a mistake, and needs to take a step back and look at their behavior.
Hmm. Yeah. Another strategy I think which really helps among couples is also that, step out of the room at that moment.
Yeah.
You don't need to solve that fight which is happening at that time. If there is a confrontation, you feel that you're going to be violent, just take a step back and say, I'm going to talk about this, but not right now when I'm feeling so angry.
Exactly.
Additionally, I also feel, not only like uncontrollable anger, but, feelings of inadequacy, feeling of jealousy. This also leads to an angry reaction from one partner. So those are also emotional issues which need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And and marital therapy really helps with this. If you feel that domestic violence has become a pattern in your relationship, then you really need to address what are the emotions behind such a reaction that you or your partner are giving, and address about what can I do for these emotions, what can I do for these thoughts that I have, so that you improve your relationship, and then stop the behavior that is occurring because of it.
Yeah, right. So just one of the things that I have heard of, and in many marital therapy cases, is that the couples, they do have strategies, like one will step out and say, okay, let's work on it later, but the other person will not let that happen, because they have that, as you said, sense of inadequacy. So that's important to address, as you said.
So then the person has to realize that, this is one particular point when the person is asking to move away, that he knows he is not in his control. So give him that space. So take a step back again from your side and say, I don't want this to escalate as it did last time. That way.
Right. Okay, so so we have talked about anger management and marital therapy, but there are some circumstances in which like we have to look at immediate and urgent measures. So there are some factor like red flags which we need to look for. So if there is a woman who's being battered, of course physical hurt, and there are she's having consequences of the psychological consequences of behavior is happening to her, and the children are under threat, or there is a situation where she's being controlled to the extent where she's not being allowed out. So these kind of circumstances are high risk situations, and they are really red flags that the woman must take her children and any other dependents and get out of that place and go to a safe place, and also go and seek help from the women's welfare association or the police, or call the helplines that we'll be giving at the end of this talk.
Yes. Definitely, these instances where the woman is being battered and even a small injury is also illegal. But definitely, when you're just unable to, when it's like a life threatening for you or your children, definitely it is illegal, and there is a domestic violence act. There is the act against dowry. All these acts which help the woman take recourse against her partner.
Yeah.
So they need to get in touch with the police or a doctor or a lawyer to see what are the options they have ahead.
Yes. Right. So, I mean, there are, as you say, pointed out, there are 60% of people who are suffering some kind of emotional or physical abuse in a relationship. So,
Yes.
why do you think, more women don't opt out or leave relationships?
So basically, this is very multifactorial. I used to come from this place where I think that, if violence happens even one, it's absolutely unacceptable, and you cannot be in that relationship. The trust that you have in that relationship is completely broken. So you should not remain in that relationship. But I think we realize soon that it's basically not only in terms of trust, but there is a lot of emotional factors, financial factors, societal factors, where it's very difficult for a woman to get out of the marriage. Sometimes very difficult, because she doesn't have the support of her own parents.
Yeah.
Because even her parents may tell her, you need to continue in the relationship, because what will society say?
Mm.
Why do you want, when everything else is nice about the
Mm.
husband, and he only hits you in these circumstances, like only if he's under the influence of alcohol, or
Mm.
only when he is angry. Why do you make him angry? So
Yeah.
basically, there's a lot of convincing that the woman has to do to
Mm.
say why she is justified about leaving the marriage
Mm.
or leaving the relationship.
Yeah.
And again, it also becomes like, once if she decides that she wants to leave the marriage, what does that imply? Does that imply her husband is going to become even more violent towards her?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
how is he going to receive that? I mean, there are so many couples that I know who, because of some kind of issues, they stay separately, but there's a constant threat that, the partner may come and attack her, or,
Yeah.
malign her in some way.
Yeah.
So there is a fear of being threatened or
Mm.
actually being attacked,
Yeah.
which stops a woman from going out. That is
Mm.
one. And
Mm.
secondly, all the other societal and financial factors about,
Mm.
even she may not be confident that she may be able to sustain herself or
Mm.
her children by herself.
Yeah. There is always this fear of the children being taken away, and divorce will lead to custody battles, and so many like
Yeah.
fears, especially when there are dependents in the relationship. Like mostly, like if
Mm.
there are children in the relationship, it becomes very messy and very difficult for
Mm.
a woman to take that step on her own, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's probably one of the reasons why such cases don't surface as much as they should, and it is not talked as
Mm.
much as talked even on media. It's not talked about as much as it should be.
Yes,
So
until it becomes so serious, that we hear about the husband killing the wife,
yeah.
or the children, when it becomes like a sensational thing, and then we don't
Yeah.
know what happened. Did he have a
Mm.
psychiatric problem? What
Mm.
was the issue about?
Mm.
I mean, until it becomes so serious,
Mm.
people hardly talk about it, and then
Yeah.
it's actually too late.
Yeah. Right. So when we talk about, like physical abuse, we know that, there are consequences on the body, but emotional abuse can lead to many such consequences on the mind and on the body again. That women suffer from fibromyalgia and chronic pain syndromes, and they
Mm.
suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder like symptoms, because of,
Mm.
emotional abuse. So many women, that I have seen quite a few women who have experienced domestic violence. They have lost their confidence completely, and they feel like, they don't feel that they have an identity in the relationship, and
Mm.
they don't know how to make choices anymore. They don't know how to make decisions anymore, and they display symptoms of anxiety. Like if there is a phone ringing, they will feel, they'll startle, and as PTSD like symptoms, they show all those symptoms, but still, they don't realize that this is connected to the domestic violence, the emotional abuse that they're going through.
Again, taken as a weakness among about themselves, that they
Yeah.
are not strong enough to handle issues.
Right. We talked about different types of abuse. We talked about emotional abuse and controlling behaviors. Can we, like, we need to talk a little bit more about that, because people can understand physical abuse but not this kind of abuse. What is your opinion on that, Dr. Siddhika?
Yeah, emotional abuse is basically, what the woman feels more often than not, and you cannot see these scars outside, right? So it's very difficult for even the other family members or other people to actually realize what is going on in the
Mm.
relationship. So there can emotional abuse it comes in many forms. Basically, it can be in the form of humiliation, like calling a person names,
Mm.
publicly saying something about her, or just trying to negate whatever she's saying, or
Mm.
using a lot of sarcasm while talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, it can also be in the form of controlling what she's doing, like
Mm.
don't wear this, don't
Mm.
eat this, or you cannot go out of the house right now. You cannot. This we see fairly often, that you
Mm.
cannot go to your parents' house right now,
Yeah.
and this especially happens, I feel, after some form of physical abuse.
Mm.
That because then they don't want to kind of disclose that there has been violence in the house. They again then don't allow the daughter-in-law
Mm.
or the wife to go to her parents' house or
Yeah.
talk to her parents. So it's kind
Mm.
of mixed, the physical and the emotional abuse.
Mm.
Uh, then additionally, there can be like, trying to see what she's doing on her phone,
Mm.
not allowing her to talk to other people on the phone.
Mm.
So controlling what she's doing, whom she's talking to, how she
Mm.
behaves, these
Yeah.
are other ways in which it can happen.
Mm.
So in the cycle, when we talk about the threatening phase,
Mm.
before the crisis,
Mm.
then a lot of emotional abuse can take place, which
Mm.
makes the woman kind of be on her toes all the time and
Yeah.
looking out for the physical abuse which is waiting to happen.
Mm.
So these are the aspects of emotional abuse.
Yeah. So there are a lot of issues here, because many our culture and media and everything promotes the notion that a man is entitled to and also responsible for protecting the woman. So there are many people who say that, oh, I just asked her to wear this because I feel that if she wears something else, then people will look at her, people will say something to her. I want that to be avoided, so I'm telling her to wear. I'm not controlling her. So I've heard this many many times, where women are asked not to wear deeper necks, or asked to wear dupatta, and the man thinks that this is something that he's doing to protect the woman, and this
Mm.
is
Mm.
actually glorified in the media. Like there was a recent movie,
You're talking
but
about Arjun Reddy.
ah, yeah, Arjun Reddy, and it was made into three different languages, and it was a super hit in every single language. I mean, it is completely misogynistic, and where the protagonist will completely control the woman, and they think that this is not a form of emotional abuse, and the woman actually enjoys it, but it is a form of
Yeah,
emotional abuse. It is,
this
yeah,
has been glorified in our movies for ages together. Like,
ages, yeah.
that if the male protagonist controls the female protagonist, doesn't allow her to go out in a particular place, or I
Mm,
mean, we can talk about scores of songs which have these the lyrics which say these kind of things.
yeah,
So
exactly. Mm,
basically showing that if you're possessive about a woman, that
mm,
means you love her.
yeah.
So there's that line, where there is love, a
Mm,
feeling of jealousy and
mm.
possession about the
Yes.
woman. So then
Mm,
where you have to really, we cannot equate love and being possessive.
mm,
It doesn't work that way, because when you, for it may feel romantic, or it may
mm,
feel that it's like this relationship is just like how it was in the movies,
mm.
but over time that feeling of restriction that the woman is going to feel is going to affect her health.
Yeah. So that is
And
something yeah, I always tell the younger people to watch out for. Like if there is a person who's very possessive in a relationship, so as you said, some people find it very romantic, but that's really a red flag to look for. Do you really want to be in this relationship? It's going to be very tiresome in the future for you.
mm. And one of the things that I see among younger people is, if I don't go back to him, he's
Mm.
going to do something to himself.
Ah,
So this is a threatening of violence to your own self in order
mm.
to make the person stay in the relationship.
Yeah.
So basically, if a person wants to stay in a relationship with you, it's because they have a good time with you.
Mm.
It's because they like you as a person,
Mm.
not because you manipulate them to stay in a relationship with you.
Absolutely.
So that's very, and this is like really glorified, as you said.
Mm.
Like if he does, like मैं तेरे बिना नहीं रह सकता, and I will die
Mm.
if you don't come back to me. So
Yeah.
where are we going, I mean, with
This
this?
is just plain manipulation. So, really, I mean, youngsters, if you're listening, please, look out for such signs and don't encourage such behaviors. This is
Yeah,
not,
this is a very unhealthy kind of relationship.
yeah, exactly. So, we've talked about all these aspects. One of the things that we should discuss is about how should people communicate in a relationship, so that
Hmm.
even though, I mean, of course, abuse is completely not it should not be tolerated, but what are the
Hmm.
ways to communicate so that abuse does not happen in a relationship?
Hmm. So basically, I feel that the three basic tenets in a relationship are having trust for each other, understanding each other, and communicating well with each other.
Mm,
And this communication has to be a non-violent communication or a compassionate communication with each other.
mm,
So, and of course, we are saying that physical abuse is not at all to be used, but
mm,
by non-violent communication, you also mean the tone in which you talk to a
mm,
person, whether you are listening to the person, understanding what the person is saying,
mm,
trying to respond on the same page as the person is,
mm,
making decisions together with the
mm,
person. So, not like I made this decision and then I'm coming back and telling you that this is done,
mm. Yeah.
but rather explore your options and then talk with each other about it, see whether it falls in line with both of your values, and then
Mm,
make the decision.
yeah. Right.
So and also, voice out the emotion that you're feeling. I think this
Mm,
this many people don't do. They expect that the partner has to understand
mm,
how he's feeling. So
mm,
if you're feeling angry or if you don't like something that your partner has done, then say, I didn't like what you did. I am
mm,
upset by this behavior.
mm,
I am angry that this happened.
mhm.
I am angry right now, so I need my space.
Yeah.
So express out these things first,
Mm,
and also on the other hand, the other partner also has to understand that when a person voices out these things, I need to give them that space and
mm,
let them be for some time,
mhm.
then move on from there.
Yeah.
So the base of the relationship, right from the beginning of the relationship, like after the initial romantic period,
Mhm.
has to, start off with trust, understanding, and communication.
Mm,
Build a base of communication, and try that, you build a positive relationship. Like, see
mm.
what your values are. What do you want to learn? I always feel that being in a relationship is basically growing together.
Yeah.
It's kind of a personal development of growing together as a
Mm,
couple.
mhm,
So what do you want to achieve personally and as a couple in this relationship?
mhm,
So when it's not going to come magically. It's not going
mm,
to be like, again, one of those things about we are made for each other, so we think alike, we absolutely understand what each other is thinking and feeling. So I don't need to, that's a common thing. I don't need to express what I'm feeling because he understands me so well. So it may be so in the beginning, it doesn't last. So as you go through in a relationship, understand these things, work on your relationship, and then it'll be easier to not fall into these unhealthy patterns.
yeah. And when we say that there needs to be trust and understanding in a relationship, we should also have like what we call as the circle concept with our partners. So the we
Mm,
have and one thing in the circle concept is always to put yourself first. You are the
mm,
center of that circle, and then comes your
mm,
partner and your children, and then comes anyone else outside. After that
mm,
comes everyone else, your
mm,
in-laws, your own parents, and anyone else. So when you have that concept of the circle and the intimacy with your partner is so high, then what happens
mm,
is that you have to take whatever they say at face value, and you have to
mm,
take whatever and it should be a two-way genuine relationship, genuine communication. So when somebody says something to you and you take a different meaning for it, that doesn't hold
mm,
good when you are in this kind of relationship. When you are in a relationship with your which is an intimate relationship, whatever you say to someone should be genuine, straightforward, and it should be said
mm,
as truly as possible, and you should hold to it. That's very
mm,
important in a romantic relationship.
mm. Yes, absolutely.
So we've talked about quite a few things today. We've talked about the types of violence, domestic violence, and we've talked about the prevalence. We've talked about why people are more prone to it, and we've also talked about the cycle of abuse, and we've talked about things that the perpetrator can do and what the victim can do to improve the situation. And now, before we end, we will also give you some helplines to call in case there are any situations that you need to contact people for help.
Basically, if you or any of your loved ones are suffering from domestic violence of any kind, then you need to know that you are not alone. Help is available. There are people who are willing to listen to you. There are helplines which are available. So first try to talk to your husband or your partner and see if things can be worked out. And if you feel that it's not working out, then reach out to family, to friends, to psychiatrists, or to any of the helpline numbers to see what options you have and take help as available.